So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the launch event of Pathways to Resilience, Empowering Regions for Climate Adaptation. I'm very glad to see so many of you here in person and many, many more that have joined us online today. I'm Luisa Heidenreich. I'm working for Climate Kick as co-head education and learning, and I'm currently also engaged in the capacity building and learning activities within P2R. I think everybody here today has come for a specific reason. Either because you're interested in how a region can get engaged in implementing the EU mission, or you're keen to learn what transformative adaptation looks like in practice, from new finance models to ecosystem engagement to innovative practices. Or you are interested in hearing about the political background, the policy framework, and the importance of the missions. Or all of the above. Well, first and foremost, this is a launch event where we will hear about the above-mentioned topics and also about the Pathways to Resilience project in a bit more detail. But as this event also has breaks, a coffee break and a lunch break, it's about networking. And it's about listening and learning for all of us. Hence, I really invite you to be curious. And I'm actually quite curious to hear who we have in the room. And I assume others are as well. So I would like to do a very quick round of hand raising. So please do raise your hand if you are a representative from a region. Oh, a lot. Thanks. If you are from an EU institution, I see double hands. If you are from a national government, from a citizen group, no one. Oh. From the private sector, okay. Couple. From research. And a member of the P2R consortium. Great, thank you. This event is structured in 4 parts. First of all, in her keynote address, Elina Bardram will set the scene of the event and highlight the links between the EU climate adaptation strategy, the mission approach, and the role of regions in strengthening climate resilience. In the second part, the P2R project team will share more detailed information about the P2R project and how regions can actually get engaged. This is then followed by a panel discussion on transformative adaptation in practice. How are regions implementing the EU mission? After the coffee break, we will then continue introducing the various services offered to selected regions by P2R. After each part, you will have the chance to ask questions to the people on stage. Please do keep them concise and relevant for all. For our online attendees, we will also have the chance to engage. There is an unmoderated chat where you can introduce yourself, and there is a moderated Q&A function using Slido where you can input your questions. For our on-site participants, we also have a QR code that should appear on the screen at some point that you can scan to log your questions. My colleagues will keep an eye on the Q&A chat, and we will also pick 1 or 2 questions from the online participants to the panelists. We will gather all the questions that are logged in Slido and hope to answer them or try to answer them or get back to them in the FAQ on our website that you can then find soon on the website. There's a couple of housekeeping rules. First of all, and I think you were introduced to some of them already when you entered the building, please do keep your luggage outside. There's a specific room on the right-hand side. No drinks and food is allowed in this room, with the exception of water. Toilets are down the hallway, and there is also the emergency exit at the end of the corridor. In the coffee break, you can see a stand outside with other mission projects. But now let's get started. Let me introduce on stage Elina Bardram. She was appointed Director for Adaptation and Resilience, Communication and Civil Society Relations at the European Commission's DG for Climate Action in October 22. And since June this year, she's the manager for the EU mission on adaptation to climate change. The floor is yours.
Okay, it's working. Very good. Good morning to everyone. It's a super big pleasure for me to be here with you this morning, and I'd like to thank the consortia behind Pathways2Resilience for organizing such a great event with what I understand to be almost 100 in-person participants and more than 700 people registered online. So good morning also to the online participants. It's a great success. And it speaks volumes about the interest and enthusiasm that we have also witnessed in the context of the mission for adaptation when we've been going to the regions and talking to the partners, the signatories, but also the different implementing partners, the associates and collaborators, as we like to refer to. So as Louise was saying, my task today is to tell you a little bit about the policy context in which we're operating. And also tell you a few words about how the mission adaptation or the missions in general fit into that policy context. I think it's fair to say that since the Green Deal was launched in 2019, we have seen something that can be described as a constant era of exceptionalism. So when we put forward the Green Deal with its very ambitious vision that at least 40% reduction target, the climate law, the Fit for 55, nobody could foresee that we were going to be hit by COVID. Nobody could foresee that there was going to be this horrendous war in Ukraine. And the inflation, energy prices, interest rates, the hike that we've seen, that the kind of externalities that have hit Europe are unprecedented. And what's very important to note in that context is that despite of the skeptics thinking that climate action and ambition would take backseat at face of all that turmoil, they have actually become very much the center for our recovery and also for our energy independence. What's also been very typical or very remarkable during this past 4 years of this commission has been the fact that climate impacts that were considered to be something of the future have become increasingly omnipresent. You know, we've seen fatalities, we see health implications, we see temperature levels that are nothing but worrying. I think the climate scientists that were commenting on this were saying that this is called smacking bananas. So our scientific community is getting out of words in describing, you know, how aggressive the change is. And that's where our adaptation action and the local operators come to play. It is in many cases that the local people, the regional actors that see most directly the impacts, and they also have the best ideas of the solutions, of the needs, the contextualized way of going forward. From the EU level, in the context of our EU adaptation strategy, we've been pursuing quite ambitious action in trying to make activities more systemic, smarter, swifter, and also reaching out to the international community. The climate law puts in an obligation for the member states to report on the progress made on adaptation. There's this duty to adapt that has been captured in Article 5 of the climate law. In line with that, the member states have this year reported on their progress for the first time. So in October, we were able to publish the first ever assessment of implementation of this climate law and climate activities. And the recommendations are available at a global level. As a part of the NECP, so the assessment of progress of the national energy and climate plans in December, we will be publishing member state specific recommendations. And that's a very important trigger for what we hope to be a much more intensified activity at the national level. And one of the findings is the disconnect or absence of clear governance in bringing the kind of needs to meet the financing tools. Now, something that we're also very busy with my team with is the first ever European climate risk assessment. This is an exercise that's being carried out by the European Environment Agency, based in Copenhagen, and it involves some 60 to 100 scientific experts, and they will be publishing the risk assessment as an authoritative but independent scientific report during the first quarter of next year. That risk assessment looks at the climate exposure of all EU key policies, be it about coherence funds, be it about structural funds, be it about agriculture, health. So all policies that are exposed to the impacts of climate, which have their efficiency compromised by the temperature increases, heat waves and fires, will be scrutinized and there will be recommendations. We will look at the intersection between science and policy making, and that's something quite novel and innovative. And we will not stop there. We will also be responding as the Commission with a political communication that articulates what we're going to do about the situation. Because I think our citizens, our constituencies, they deserve to know that the institutions are capable of stepping up to the challenge. And a big part of those findings will be the empowerment of local action. And this is also where the missions fits in. Through the missions, we have been able to gather a lot of evidence, a lot of kind of testimonies about what's working, what's not working. We've been able to also witness the power of collaboration, and the way that we deploy our activities is to enhance understanding, planning these pathways, and this is, I'll come back to this, and also then work to deploy the best available solutions, replicate them, scale it up, and then really encourage collaboration between peers, between different regions, so that we can benefit from each other's experience, be it in reaching out to the national authorities or deploying these solutions, finding financing, for instance. P2R, or Pathways to Resilience, is an extremely important tool for us in this. I'm so pleased to have this launch event, and of course the fact that we will be reaching directly to the regional and local authorities that have the understanding of the situation, but also indeed recognize their vulnerabilities and are able to articulate their needs and then seek for the support in preparing these transformational pathways, preparing the actions and aligning those in order to also then dialogue with other parts of the mission, such as the mission platform, such as the regional adaptation tool, and of course, CLIMAX. What's key is the collaboration under the MIP4ADAPT, making sure that we exploit the full energy and strength of the different partners working under the MIP4ADAPT. And we see that the strengths and the expertise that we have within the different constituencies, the different partners, can really amplify the impact of our action as we move along. So I'd like to congratulate the Pathways to Resilience team. We have great expectations, high expectations for you, but we're very confident that you, like the EU institutions, will be capable of stepping up to the challenge, and look forward to cooperating with you in the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Elina, this was very, very inspiring, and I particularly also like that you stress this collaboration aspect and the peer-to-peer learning between regions, and this is also what P2R will be about. Before we open the question to the questions to the audience, I have one question for you. What does transformative adaptation mean to you? And how is this approach different? What has been done before? And what positive effects does this bring on the future of adaptation?
Thanks. I think to me, transformative unequals business as usual. So that's where we have to start. You know, the situation that we see ourselves in today is very grave. So we need a much more systemic, much more assertive approach in doing things and pooling in the expertise through these collaborative platforms. So transformative is about systemic. It's about doing things differently, harnessing the innovative power that we have in the different communities of expertise, and making sure that the necessary attention is given to the agenda. And I also think that we need to start talking about adaptation action in different terms. Adaptation is still too often seen as an afterthought in planning processes. It's considered voluntary, and what we see also through the assessment of the member state action is that the activities are often almost organic. So that there's no clear structure for the communications, etc. So that's where, you know, transformative action is really about decisive, systemic ways forward that depart from business as usual in recognition that the challenge is not business as usual. Thanks.
Thank you. So, is there a question in the audience to Elina? We have a microphone somewhere. Yes, Sarah has the microphone. So please do raise your hand in case you have a question. No question? Ah, yes, there's one.
Thank you so much for the remarks. What does success look like for you? After P2R would finish, what do you hope to see in the regions as a result of it?
Well, there's potentially 100 beneficiaries for the support that's being made available. So what I would like to see is really good, effective implementation plans, but they need to be contextualized and fit for purpose. So in some regions, depending on their maturity and depending on the capacities on the ground, some of the activities may be rather incremental. But that's okay. What we do need is something that matches the vulnerability and the capabilities of the regions. What I would also like to see is that we don't limit the activities of the Pathways for Resilience to just the mission beneficiaries or signatories, but that we exploit and make use of the findings, the methodology, well beyond that. Because climate action is not something that stops within the contours or the confinements of a project or its beneficiaries, but we really need to use the ability to replicate, amplify, and escalate activities on the ground. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Elina. If there's no other question, then thanks a lot. I think this was very, very informative. I know you need to leave fairly soon. So thanks for coming, both of you, and see you soon.
Thank you, and I look forward to hearing about the deliberations during the day, because this is really important for us, and we will be holding our partners for the deliverables of the success. Thanks. Great day to you.